Artlist.io. Music licensing reimagined. Artlist.io. Music licensing reimagined. Artlist.io. Music licensing reimagined. Artlist.io. Music licensing reimagined.
All right, let's get started. 2 times in one day must be somewhat eventful day. And I've got the JJ from RVA, so I'll bring him up just so my mug isn't full screen for a bit here. What's up, with JJ?
What's up, man? Happy
New
Foals
office,
Day.
who dis?
What's up?
You got a new office or what?
No. Switch the view. We're going right to
Shit.
left this time. Yep. Had to
Change the
plug in
angle.
Plug in the laptop, different spot.
Using dogs as accessories, unfair.
Yeah. Focus on this guy versus my ugly mug for sure.
Yeah. Happy Foals Day. You actually crushed it, and we didn't really in detail go through your stable. So as time permits, we'll probably do that because it wasn't even. We called out the S plus from with no 1-of-1s in it, but certainly you got better breeds from our colt than we got from our colt. So there's a few there.
Yeah.
Through as
Yeah.
well.
I felt like what Mr. B must feel like when he breeds with better than most. Because he's gotten better outcomes with that overall in terms of I've had more quantity. He's hit it fewer times and gotten better results, I feel like. So yeah, that was awesome. I mean, it was the first time I'd really gone outside of stable in a mass amount, and definitely not disappointed with Mercury's breeds. So definitely check him out. I think I got a S Colt and a couple S fillies that are now non-101. So yeah, pretty sick.
Just pulling up some things here to look through. Ted bought so many horses today. I don't even know where to start or where to end. So we ended stream about 12 o'clock God's Country Central Standard Time. So we'll pick up purchases after that time frame. Some bigger than others, but certainly a great day for all things marketplace. And I was a little bit nervous, and I had shared this with other people, that I thought, this is the first time we're welcoming more horses than any other period than we have in the past. And you take that in conjunction with yesterday's announcement to more or less have fillies be able to birth one less foal longer term, and keep these 0-year-olds out of the stud barn for 4 seasons from now.
Yeah.
So there were some huge mechanics changes that you would have thought would have played into, if anything, an underwhelming day, and it was certainly anything but.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen a couple of revisions now of that announcement. I think there's still an outside chance that we can retire at 3 next season. I don't think that's set in stone, so maybe some people are bigger believers of that. A different workaround coming for that, I don't know. Definitely changes the landscapes, but I mean, dude, Crown's pumping, and if Crown's pumping, anything's a decent buy, I feel like, at this point.
Not financial advice. That's one thing I actually hadn't looked at it at all today was Crown. Literally hadn't even
last I checked, we
today.
got past 0.36, so that was solid. We haven't seen that in a good bit. Looks like we wicked maybe to close to 38 at one point. But I think the even bigger thing than the price now is, like, we'll see people sell like 20,000 Crown and it moves at like half a cent. So I think that's probably the bigger.
Yeah, as long as you get that total value locked up. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So if we look through sales, not today's stream, but the last time we streamed before that, I'd covered 361, kind of throwing down the gauntlet, saying he was going to break the record. He probably should have done it while he could have. I'm not to say he can't do it, but probably should have done it when it would have been easier to do. But I think this was one of his bigger purchases today. Came from Poseidon Racing, an original Ace King. What's that?
So yeah, I think seems like you got a pretty cheap deal there. Like, it didn't seem stuff go for more, I guess, but maybe that's the extra month being baked in. I don't know.
Some of it would have to be a factor of it's got 2 1-on-1s already used in it, and it still stays an S. So you can go to Astro next, but then outside of that, your options for advancing the breed are a little bit more difficult. But I mean, it's nice pieces. It's that the dream that we traded to Poseidon that's got the SS stamina, the only SS, I think,
right, from Gen 0.
stack rate from Gen 0. And then obviously Ace King was the rarest of the Ziggy RDFs, so, and primetime. So certainly good pieces, but yeah, it becomes a little bit more challenged moving forward with the changes to inbreeding as well. But it should be a great racer. I mean, I think we've gotten so far into the price of foals being the function of a horse value, which is a little bit scary, to be honest. But if a horse like this can actually really dominate, and we'll pull up one here in a bit that's didn't sell today, but looks like it might be able to dominate. Mm-hmm. They can make a lot of money in 2 to 3 seasons of racing. So
yeah,
now that horses are going to have to race through, then we're good.
Yeah, if you have to race your 3-year-old season, and they just added another $1,000 to those pools plus the weekly pools, so you get maybe 2 or 3 free rolls a month, and if you can hit the board on those, plus just your Crown and everything else from the larger entry fees. I mean, look at Eddie's stable. I mean, he netted like $7,000 in Derby racing last month. So if you can get one of these that dominate as well, you're definitely taking some of that. Has to be from the foal, and that spread to make it a profitable buy definitely gets shortened as those free rolls and everything become higher purses.
Yeah. So looking at the next one here, Matriarchs Holidays sold to Ted, I would have believed, from GBG, $650K. good number there. And contrasting this with the last one we saw that also had prime time in it. Even though this is more complex of a tree, you've actually got a Gen1 Colt and a Gen1 mare. You're still only using one of one. So it uses Doc, which is probably your best option at RDS, although we saw some of the Night Saturn Foals today that looked pretty great as well. And then, yeah, using prime time again. So he's got the options of Ziggy or Astro moving forward. And again, Shockwave has to be very close to an S plus as a horse itself. And Matriarch Holiday has an SS minus stat and an S plus stat. So should be very useful as a racer. Actually, more breeding options than the last one we looked at. I think we have another GBG sale here. This one went quick. I don't think it was listed very long. Listed for sale 111 God's Country Central Standard Time, sold 112. And to our knowledge, no one has contact information for Ted, so that was like a legitimate snipe. But
yeah, I know. There was one other person that was trying to buy it and that was trying to add funds, and Ted was a little too quick. His balance doesn't go dry, so probably leave some powder in yours if you're looking to outsnipe Ted.
Yeah. A 0-year-old S filly, good preferences from Zeus and Isis. So you're using 2 of the 1-on-1s, but can still use prime time, can still use an Astro, can bring in Doc if you need to. So plenty of places to go. And then from a price point, like this was maybe one of the cheaper ones we saw today, at least at the S level. Full of Goldeneye. I don't know that I remember seeing this one happen. I was a little bit busy. 225. So it had been listed a couple of times. They fairly aggressively chopped the price today. Started at 300 and then dropped it basically every hour, 25K, which is a viable strategy. I don't know who this would have been initially. I guess I can look at the filly here.
It was Smup Legend Stable.
Yep. So one that's got 2 1-of-1s in it. So plenty of room to go there. The Colt used was a Gen 1 from an S and an A plus. So if that gives you pause that it's not a Gen 0 S there, maybe that would make some sense on the price. Certainly the cheapest one that we saw today, I believe. Full Pocahontas, based on the Western naming convention. We know this is a Tombstone horse.
Yep.
What did we get?
That was better than most. Full.
385 for an S minus. That doesn't suck.
Yeah, that's up there.
S minus and an A plus. Wow, wowzers.
I mean, that's probably your preferences paying there. I mean, who knows? I mean, yeah. I mean, when Ted sees what he wants, he obviously isn't gonna care if it's a little bit over what maybe others would pay. But I've seen a bunch of those race well now, and gives you pretty much free reign on whatever the next Colt uses. So,
what do we got next? Full of Queen of Integrity. I don't know this horse at all. 600K on the price. Another RDF.
that was
He acquired many things today, but RDF.
That's Nate's. That was Nate, right? Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Nate LFC. An S minus that had previously used Ziggy with a Scuba Pasture S, which is pretty popular. And I think we might touch on why and the next one. Well, we'll do the sales first, but when we get to a racing horse, we might see where Pasture S could maybe gain some steam as a breeder. So for some reason, I'd left out a few sales. Because then I'm finally getting caught up. So yeah, as we talked about, we even tweeted about it. We posted it in Trading and Selling. We'll do the same thing every single month. I think it's fairly defensible when we're onboarding. Next month, we'll onboard 75 new fillies or new foals. The month after that will be more. The month after that will be more. So us to sell 10 fillies in about 10 minutes is certainly not an issue on my end. And we got some variation in the buyer. Now, I would actually love if these would actually go to new stables or different stables, but there's nothing you can control on that. So 2 went to Tad, 2 went to Equestrian Harmony, and then you got 1 each across the board. But I mean, I priced them 5 to 10K below lesser assets, with the intention of moving them fairly quickly. We've got like 5 left out there. Clearly, the people didn't think that they were as good as these 10, so take that for what you will when you're reviewing the marketplace.
So do you, I don't want to get ahead, but would you have still priced that way knowing what was about to come? I mean, you got to be like, at some point you have too many, I guess. I'm starting to feel like I have too many and you have way more than me. So I actually thought about doing the same thing you did and just couldn't really, I was just too enthralled with everything else going on to list appropriately. So wasn't sure your thought there. Like if you knew what you knew now, like would you have tried to make 10 sales in 10 minutes?
I think there's a chance I would, because I think there's a value add to being kind of the market leader in affordable sales. Mm-hmm. You could phrase that differently and say that I'm undercutting the market, dropping the floor price, however you want to phrase it. But if we can have it be a situation where on Foals Day or the day after, or whenever we get around to listing our foals, like it gets attention of people realize I'm not jerking around on price, they're priced competitively, then if you can know that you can rely on moving supply fairly easily, like I think there's a value to that. It saves me time in trying to figure out, how do I get every dollar out of these? And then, the flip side and the benefit for everybody is if I sell something too cheap, one, that's a good experience for everybody in all likelihood, because we could afford to lose a couple bucks. And if they have a great experience, chances are they'll be back the next time we do it. So yeah, I think at a minimum, we have to probably sell 10 for sure. Honestly, that number probably goes up 5 every season going forward. Like we're going to onboard 10 more than we did this past season. So how do you get to a number that's manageable if you're onboarding eventually in like 2 or 3 seasons, 100 foals in a season? Like that's a lot.
Yeah, it's definitely a unique spot. Not everyone's, in that, but I just figured it would be worthwhile seeing the thought process there.
What we got? We looked at Queen of Integrity. There's a couple here I missed for some reason, so we'll get those up, and then we'll talk about the 3 big ones that have everybody's attention. Full of Constant Spry. That would have been. I don't know if I know Gulf Coast Racing. Do you know who that is?
I do not.
You know everybody. That's crazy. An A and an S makes an S minus. Pretty solid preferences. Ted saw it. Ted liked it. LDS. Went for 350. That's a really big number in my opinion for the one that was the better than most one, just because it's no one of ones used. I think is probably a more attractive asset. But maybe it's harder to do at LDS. I guess I'm not. We don't race there, so it's tough to know. And he's got another one here, Tactical Trotter, and shout out to Community Legend, I believe, on this one. Trot on, yeah. Fairly new arriver, but normally fairly vocal and seems like a good dude. So congrats on a huge sale there. Another one that goes to Ted, another RDF S filly. One that's used, this is the one that caught my eye earlier today. So this is used all 3 RDF 1-of-1s. So, and keep in mind, it's a Gen 2. So that makes it a little bit more palatable. But you basically have to go to Primetime or find another unique bloodline for this one going forward. And he got $400K for that. So it seemed like the price went up as the day went along. And the last 3 are certainly an example of that.
Sure.
So we got
I got a tip on this one that it was about to happen, and the record was going to broke, and then it was like that was quite short lived. Yellowstone's made a lot of the big buys. We talk a lot about
Yes.
Fed and we talk a lot about 360 win, but Yellowstone's no slouch when it comes to putting money up either for the top stuff. So cool to see that it was a Colt break the record. In my opinion, I think that it's 3 now or 2.
It's 3.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's already raced, so you already know kind of that it's a monster. I mean, it's fucking got 18 wins in 24 races. So if you can win that free roll is what? How much? 3K now? Is that right? What did it go up to this for the Derbies?
I'm not even positive.
Yeah,
I was
what
mobile.
it went up
announcement
1,000. I
came
can't
out.
remember if it was 2. I think it was 2004. So I think it went up to 3,000. So I mean, you can make a big chunk of that back this season. I doubt they're buying it as a stud. I'm guessing they're racing it.
Then that was going to be my follow-up question is, would you race this or would you put it out to stud? You'd say you'd race it through the 3-year-old season. I think that's pretty consensus. Would you race it through the 4-year-old season?
If we're at, we'll call it 30-cent crown. We're above that right now. But 30-cent crown plus the free rolls, gotta think that horse can make half of its purchase price back in both combined. If you can get some smaller fields for crown. I don't know. If you're selling the crown, I don't know. Half's probably aggressive, but maybe 4K.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I try to not rely on current economic circumstances to project, but to some extent, you
definitely not stable. But I could see that being kind of the thought process behind.
To be fair, I would not have predicted Crown to pump today. We traded, I think on the previous stream, we acknowledged this. We traded Crown leading into what we knew to be the fundraise announcement and kept it through the Peel City Stakes when we thought there'd be new eyeballs on there. I wasn't able to watch that stream. I don't know how many new eyeballs were on there, but the price really hadn't moved through that. So then I did rotate that back out and probably obviously should have kept it in there. I mean, we rotated it into Solana, which has done fairly well actually alongside Crown, but certainly not up as much today as Crown has been. So that, to me, that kind of came out of nowhere. Is there anything that you think spurs that? Did I miss a Twitter thread or Twitter conversation about Crown, or is this because it's the new season and people can stake more Crown now, so they're buying more Crown?
I think I saw a few threads. I don't know if they were people that have 1 million followers or anything crazy, but yeah, I mean, I was surprised. Normally people unstake, because you can always restake for 10 days. So normally we do see it go down when the season kind of opens back up. But I mean, some of the Crown staking rewards that I was seeing from some of these bigger holders that aren't OGs, like people that have truly just bought up Crown, like they're making a good chunk every 4 weeks. So maybe they're telling friends or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I like it either way. I need to race a few more horses than I have certainly today, and we need to get the selection committee figured out.
I think I have like 3 races today total. I just can't.
It's hard.
Try to go. Yeah, it's too much.
And the 2-year-olds, like, I almost don't want to race until I've actually thought about it. The 3-year-olds you can pretty unconsciously race, but 2-year-olds I actually want to try to put a decent foot forward on. So yeah, to recap here, Morpheus, 2 1-of-1s. Amumu is no stranger to putting out S pluses out of JPEG Large Stable. That's proven to be a great asset, even if it was bred in like the very last day of breeding back in February 2022, I think. And yeah, I didn't even know how good this horse was on the track. It's never missed the board. That's crazy.
Yeah, I don't play
competitive at LTS.
That's why I didn't even know it was a 3-year-old versus a 2. I had to squint and see the record. So yeah, to never miss the podium is pretty crazy. I mean, Ghost knows how to race. That's who was running it before. But yeah, I mean, I think you pay that for. I mean, it's just an insane horse, and you got to think unless 4-year-olds age to be that much better, like is Can Pork Chop now going to race against him? Like I don't know. Like maybe that's your worry. but he can't race in the Derby. That's 3-year-olds only.
Yeah,
Or
the only two
is
times
that-
it's raced
is that confirmed?
against.
Is that confirmed for all the other archetypes? I know the Kentucky Derby they're limiting to 3-year-olds, but I'm guessing they're doing the same for everyone.
I would think so. I think if you want to
I
have
haven't looked ahead.
a race for those, you can do a different race at that point. So
Yeah.
The only two times it's raced over 10 horses, which you would maybe question how strong the fields are. It won both of them, first at a 14th. That must have been
That's
it's not a major, but yeah, some big race there because there's zero entropy. It must have been one of the undercard races.
Yeah.
Certainly good horse. I don't know if it has a distance preference baked in or if it's good everywhere because it looks pretty good everywhere if you can win at 11 and win at 5. So just probably a cut above. And we've talked about that with LTS before too, that there's just not that many top fillies there. So the second you have a top LTS asset, it's just head and shoulders above a lot of the fields there. So that's why I would probably race that one probably about as long as you can, even if people would breed with it. Then we broke the record again. This one caught me off guard for sure. I don't know if like Ted just is like, all right, I'm just going to keep buying stuff. People keep listing it. I don't know the mentality, but 1.5 million, and that got my gears turning, which we'll see shortly. But this is certainly a nice horse. But my thought process was if RDF is the most competitive, the most crowded, and maybe the most top-heavy archetype, this is from 2 1-of-1s. It is a 1-year-old, which is better than a lot of, in my opinion, and meaningfully better than buying a 0-year-old, but not crazy preferences. I thought if this went for 1.5, then we would dangle ours again for 1.6, which I think I'm gonna pat myself on the back. I think was the initial list price. Yeah, so 2 weeks ago I listed it for the exact price it sold for today, and I dropped the price since by 200K. I'd had an offer over the weekend that would have broke the record, and decided I'm not interested in just breaking the record for record's sake. This was our only S plus. We still didn't get another S plus today, and on paper, like it fits the distance.
Is that Ape and Apollo?
You would want. Yeah. So, I mean, Ape was kind of best at 8. Yeah, Ape was best at 8 furlongs. Apollo was best at 12. We saw Bored Ape, which was the S minus the first. Ape Offspring was great at 10. Ted is the 2-year-old now. And then we've got the 3-year-old as well, Aped In, which is best at 10. So it seems like the distance profile is matching, and there's only, I think, 4 S plus LD horses in this crop, so the 1-year-old crop. And if you think you've got the distance preference figured out and it's an S plus, I do think it's definitely a Derby contender, if not the Derby favorite. So I don't love moving a piece like that just because we don't have any other ones really, but it's hard to say no to 20K USDC, so we decided to not say no. So shortly after seeing the one sell for 1.5 on the dot, I don't know if I still have it up or not.
Yeah, I laughed earlier because like he bought that one. It was either that one or the one from Hazy Hills, and it was like he didn't even take a minute to just like take a breath and be like, that was a cool buy. Like he instantly bought like another S for like 400K. It was just like, he just had 1,000 tabs open. Like it's great.
Yeah. So yeah, 240 basically on the dot. He spends 1.5. 4 minutes later, he spends 400K. Then 17 minutes later than that, he spends 20 grand. So things are looking up for Ted these days, I think. So, and I'm appreciative of that. And I do take very seriously how many horses we sell, which of our horses we sell. But at the end of the day, when you have that many horses, you're going to have to sell some. You don't necessarily need to sell the best pieces, but I think it was a deal that made sense for us. They were both internal pieces. We've run that breed 3 times. We'll continue to run it again this season, I think. And it was just ultimately something we weren't going to say no to. Any other overall comments on marketplace activity today before we look at, I think there's one kind of interesting reveal SoCal dropped in, and then what looks to be an actual super horse, albeit through one race. But anything left on the marketplace?
I don't think so. I mean, there's plenty of other stuff going that's affordable. I think it's in a pretty good spot, and there's gonna be people who list and overvalue and overprice on purpose, and then some of that stuff's gonna sit. But it did feel like if you wanted to sell, you could sell, which is great, because we kind of weren't sure how the news of the potential extra month was going to play into today, right? Definitely helped that like everything was bought through from last season. Like there wasn't much in terms of like out there that was left over. I pulled a horse last minute last night when they made that change, that the one filly that you talked about in your stream last week. I did pull that, and I'll be racing it because it just feels like you don't want to get rid of fillies that are closer to 4 than you need to.
Yeah, no, I think that's probably a good decision. Although it was funny, and we'll get to yours here after these two, is there are unique bloodlines that made your S plus, but they're complicated bloodlines for your stable, it seems. So
yeah, we can talk about that when we get there. Yeah, I got it.
We've got Machiavelli here. That's SoCal. Drop to us. 3-year-old S Colt reveals SS minus start, SS minus heart, and A temper. And at LDF, not super surprising to see. Really strong start, but low speed and low temper is interesting there. So this is one where he did get kind of a crazy outcome using the Ziggy Colt with the Ziggy filly, which is not inbreeding. Rose of Zion is from a somewhat unique colt that was used. So this was a big purchase by SoCal when he made it, or I guess he had owned the filly previously, but had to pay for the breed. And part of the selling the filly was to get a couple of these. So he posted it. I forgot to ask him if he was thrilled with it or not. It is a crazy outcome on temper. It was not.
Yeah, and it looks like that temper was like the absolute minimum it could have rolled. Like it was the bottom wick possible to get to A. So you got to think if that thing just goes to like S minus, then he's got an S plus stud with pretty unique, like you said, the first S plus stud from Rose of Zion. Like if he just doesn't get that A temper roll, like he basically has an S plus in the bag.
That is interesting. I don't know that we've seen too many that you can say like the whisker appears where the stat is.
Best case, like I haven't seen many that like definitely were the tip top of a wick either. Like that's really a 1 in 1,000 chance outcome.
I guess you could say the SS minus start is probably pretty close, honestly, there though, because he got true. SS minus. So it's like he hit 1 to the good and then 1 brutally to the bad. And yeah, I mean, temper does seem to be showing up on the racetrack, so it's tough. I mean,
I think if you look through the charts, you can see or fleet figures. If you look at fleet figures, I think he bounced pretty heavily on fleet.
Let's see if I got it here. You've got an 81 in there, but let's see distance. Is it a sprinter normally? Yeah, so definite sprinter. So even just looking at 5 furlongs. You've got an 81 on good, and then you've got a 67 on that. It's on soft, but even on yielding 72, that is a pretty big swing. Mm-hmm. 65 on, well, it's left turf, so that one makes some sense, I guess. But
racing it, and some turf races because they don't really have as many sprint. It makes sense.
But he even pulled a 73 on fast there too, so he's had some good, some bad, and hits low 80s when he's getting it right.
Related for sure. I mean, an A temper going up against a bunch of S tempers, like when he brought it, but you're not, if you're not performing at the best, you're quickly so. So those reports will, I'm sure, look. I don't have any fillies yet in left there. I bought a few this past week. But those will be interesting, I'm sure. It's not to the same, it's better, but in right turf terms, it looks a lot like a Mundo, right? It has all the racing stats and then a low temper, and those reports are always fun to look at. And you're like, man, if I can just get a temper wick, like I'm gonna have a freaking beast. So I think he said he's studying it for 12,000 Derby, which is what, $150. So I mean that I would definitely be looking into that if I own some. Seems very reasonable price. And then you just cross your fingers and pray to the temper gods.
And I haven't used Ziggy or Rose of Zion yet, so actually we may be in the market for that. I might have to talk to SoCal about a few things. I'm not sure. How strongly do you feel about, do you want to breed with a good temper stat grade, or do you want to breed with a bad temper stat grade, or is it depend on everything else?
I do get a little scared with some of them when they're just. I don't mind it if it's like, oh, I'm gonna have an S horse with like, a board. It looks like it's gonna be borderline A plus S minus. Like I don't mind being a little, but like if it's gonna be like an A plus and you're hoping for a strong S, like I don't really want it to get too far away from the overall grade. But I retired a filly today that has the exact same thing. It's got like, it was an S minus filly, has A temper, and then like all S stats. And so I'm like, fuck it, do I just go to Mundo? It's RTS. I'm like, do I just go to Mundo and just, again, race it and hope that I get lucky, every few races?
Okay, I needed to fact check this one. So the other horse before we get into your stable, old ass GBG had mentioned this one to us, and I teased that the pasture ass might gain some market share if this is any indication, but certainly got good asset in Spirit of Ecstasy too. Rarity 61 in the filly. It's not the top of Astro, but it's pretty high up there. It's definitely an S20, as is pasture ass, or 19.5 probably because the lack of firm there. But he had brought it to our attention that it raced 84 fleet figure. Then he writes back a little bit later. It was on yielding, I guess. I don't know if that would be any factor here or not. Writes back and says that's the fastest ever time at right dirt, 8 furlongs. Then a couple minutes later, it comes back and says it's the fastest ever dirt, 8 furlong time. And sure enough, shout out to the Gap Data guys. If you do all as opposed to left or right, all including all grades, including S pluses, do dirt,
which
all
right
condition.
dirt has a lot of.
What's that?
Which right dirt has? Well, I guess we're doing both.
Yeah.
Right dirt has a lot of S pluses. Like not like that actually means something. It's not like you're limiting it to S.
Yeah. So regardless of age, regardless of the horse is already retired, it's the best time, and it's the best time by 0.2 of a second. Like that's not nothing. So we'll be curious to monitor that one. Second and fourth place, I know are S pluses. I don't know Neon Bandit. We'll find out in a second here.
Isn't that Lollies?
Of course, the link I click on takes forever to load. Wolof, S plus. Okay. So yeah, the 3 behind it were S pluses. 1 was left dirt, 2 were right dirt. 2 of the 4 were fast condition, which I would think would present potentially your best time. Yielding has resulted in some weird outcomes for sure. That can't be discredited. But if this is not like a variable temper horse like the one we just looked at, like if this somehow has consistency in temper, this looks like an absolute monster already. Your first race as 2-year-old in 1 day or whatever you want to say. Rips off the fastest time.
Oh, was it on your stream last time? Somebody ran like an 86 or something.
Yeah. I haven't seen many more than that.
Yeah, one of the great horses, right? But not your first race. That's and he made the whole comment about the morning line odds too. Like it had better odds than the S plus. That probably means something. Interesting because they had no races to go off of. So is that a little bit too much? Too telling? I don't know. I never pay attention, but might need to start.
Well, it's gotten weird with the odds because, yeah, I thought they were a pretty good indication of the summation of your underlying stat grades. But the team came out and explicitly said, no, the morning line odds are made based on information that is available to the public. Well, if you have all these 0-year-old horses, there's no information available to the public other than the sire and dam, which I would really be surprised from a coding standpoint would be involved in the calculation of odds. So I'm not considering that too strongly. But yeah, to his point, 8.27, and I get it's probably a little small with the font that they use and the color of the font they use. 8.27 on the morning line odds. You've got an S plus at 10, another S plus at 9.16, another S plus at 11. So just super strong. Nothing about it seems fluky. So that is maybe one of the few horses that will keep my attention, even though it's an RDF, and I don't care at all about RDF. Before we get in, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I'm just saying, like, definitely be one to follow. Like, I mean, Right Dirt Firm is fascinating. I don't play there, but like, it definitely makes you pay attention because you can, like, they're the first one that's discovering a lot of this stuff, right? Like, they're having fields with many S pluses and all these other things. So like, that's where this is the first, sample size that you can say, like, okay, what are these odds? What are these morning line odds? What are they telling us? Because we're actually seeing fields with many S pluses and S's instead of like just one that you would see in Right Turf or whatever.
Yeah. Shout out to everybody in the chat. Sorry, I was ignoring some of that going forward. I wanted to get through a fair bit there. I am on a somewhat of a clock with Monday Night Football that I sold my tickets for to avoid future embarrassment from my sports teams again. But yeah, to Sauer's point, anybody else overwhelmed today? Yeah, I think even if I hadn't signed up to stream 4 to 5 hours, I think I would have been overwhelmed. Could have been because I slept on the couch last night and had to drive an hour and a half to get home this morning. But I suspect it's all the activity and trying to keep up on what's going on at PFL, which is certainly a good thing. I mean, we'll reach a little bit of a lull here again, as always comes in the middle of a season. But the season is off to a roaring start.
Yeah, and I think shout out to the team. I mean, they pushed breeding the one day. There was a bug today, not a bug, but the way they had coded it previously was you can't retire until breeding opens. Ian fixed that right away, so we were able to run some reports today and not feel like, holy shit, my stud that I wanted is maybe, selling out before I even got to do anything. Like, I was overwhelmed. I was supposed to be working today. Shout out work for home on Mondays. Like, definitely need to keep those in the future because just too much to look at. So if I had to also actually start hitting the breed button, would have been a lot.
And I think this season you might potentially have to start hitting the breed button. I know a lot of people have wanted to wait, and there have been deals for waiting for sure. You get the people that sell 5 to 10 publicly, and then they run training on it privately for cheap. We've done that once ourselves. I'm not hiding from that, but generally speaking, I think we're going to. How many S's did you get this season? I'm
telling you, I had the best. I had one. I won't say it on stream, but I'll message you. One thing I'm not too happy about, but like other than that, not complaining today. It was easily my best. Did my breeding in Mexico, so maybe that had something to do with it. I don't know. Like, might have to tell Misfit JJ we're going to Mexico every 4 weeks for the foreseeable future. I don't know.
Wouldn't suck.
But yeah, no, would not suck. And if I sell a couple of horses, I could probably afford it. But yeah, no, had an awesome day. The Mercury stuff was awesome. Had some Gen 1s that I hit with Gen 0s that went up. Really started to diversify kind of what I'll be able to hit, which you kind of alluded to earlier with the S Plus now. It has the better than most blood, which a lot of my horses do. So was important to finally start getting some diversification in the barn from other sires and accomplish that for sure. I had a couple interesting ones. I don't know which ones you want to talk about, but I can point you around if It's not
We
too
can rifle through. I just wanted to make sure. Yeah, I think you had more S's than us this window. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Same number.
I think I have 11 total between 1 and 0-year-olds now, or something like that, which is pretty crazy considering I have 1 S and 0.
Yeah, that's kind of my point. We'll go left or right. We'll save the good one for last, even though I kind of spoiled it a little bit there.
Yep.
Are we pronouncing this Ariat Dreams? I should know these. That's probably Taylor Swift song, I'm guessing. I'm not
No,
sure.
it's not. I think that's a word that means something about gold or something, and I just saw the gold medal on the Philly, so that's why I named that. The matching gold medals or whatever those were. So yeah, this a unique Colt, which will be cool because any of the better than most stuff can now hit that. And kind of just keep chugging along, and that'll be a good in-house one. Mercury taking the A+ all the way up to the S was money for sure. I don't have any of those breeding reports handy, but gotta think that they hit multiple wicks to get up there, which is cool.
And I didn't check mine because we had 2 as well this window, but they were at LDF. We used Persian Bold, which is actually a lesser as far as total boost, total preferences than Mercury at LDF. But we had 2 that were A+ with an S- that worked its way up to S as well. So I don't know if we're seeing more of that this window or what the cause of that is, because these are still, I mean, this is 2 Gen 0s breeding. So if you wanted to say there was more of it, you would think maybe, well, Gen 1 in being included in breeding would be a cause of that. But this is just a really good outcome. You got really good, well, you deserve really good preferences, I guess. That's probably, yeah, you actually got robbed of a half a star on turf, but
Sure, yeah.
I'm sure you'll be happy with it for the grade.
For sure. Yeah, so this one is probably one of the ones I'm happiest with. I think it's actually really cool that it went to soft from 2 firm horses. I did know it could do that from the breeding reports, but Scuba and Astro aren't in RTS, so this filly can now hit Mundo and Walter White and Churro with no, without even having to cross over that barrier of firm to soft. Now, I don't know what the reports will look like, obviously, if it could also then go back to firm. But yeah, that one I think is really cool and gives me some options of organically going over to soft without having to just use one of the other sides like a lot of people have done with the Walter and firms. So I thought that one was pretty cool.
I don't think we've had anything like this in the hundreds of horses we've bred, where you take something that's definitively, at worst, it's a half a star firm, and it actually goes 1 star the opposite direction. We've had a few that have shown up firm with 0 stars and should have had some sort of star there, and maybe showed up firm where it should have been soft, but probably still a 0-star soft. This is a crazy one. I actually kind of want to file this one away.
Yeah, so that's the colt that, again, I bought that colt. I was down in Mexico and I used it just to use it. And I saw that it had the capability of doing that. Just kind of didn't really think it was even a possibility, even though it's on the report. One of those probably very rare instances, but would have been a little upset if it rolled colt, I think, just to be, I mean, not upset, but the fact that it rolled filly too is just really cool, because now I can hit those other bloodlines, like I said, without because if that was half star firm and then you hit a Walter White or something, you're probably gonna end up with a 0 soft or a 0 firm or something weird. So now it has probably maybe a better chance of going softer.
You're embracing the soft. I love it. Get this out of my archetype. Is this Isley? This
Isley
is
it's a local brewery, yeah.
Oh, I thought maybe this was future Vijay offspring child name. Seems like a very trendy child name. Another one. Yeah. You're gonna need a monologue while you review this one. I'm out of beer and this is fucking bullshit.
Yeah. So another Mercury S colt. Juju has been maybe the best breeder in my barn. It doesn't have matches, so that's kind of crazy that it's been so good. But I think if we look through Progeny, it has one S minus total, and that was with Big A, I believe. Yeah, so Big A. Other than that, 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 S horses out of 5 tries from an S minus without hitting an S Colt. Right? Or the only time that it didn't go S was when I hit an S Colt. The other 3 were with Better Than Most, and then this one with Mercury. So, yeah, pretty stoked on that. Just again, another in-house option down the line to just be able to hit everything. So this one has a little bit less stars than the other one, obviously, but
no, the opposite. This one has more.
Really,
this one is more than the other one.
I'm sorry, I'm an idiot. I pulled up Juju. I didn't even pull up the right horse.
And Chad, if you want to play along at home, you can do !! Idiot, and you can also see the JJ say that he's an idiot.
That's right.
But
so this one, that one with the 8 preferences was my. I like that one better than the other Colts. So yeah, but then the Juju one, also was awesome from a going up standpoint as well.
So we drew up your regular scheduled programming to show you the 2 fucking shitty Mercury offspring I got this winter instead.
I saw your goat head soup one. That sucked.
Oh my god, I think they all suck. I tried to break it nicely to the guys. I'm a little bit disappointed in all of these. I need Foals here. Wish the filter would stay. So that goat one did stay an S, but then you get Diana. Oops. That's an S minus as well. So these 2 are just kind of brutal. You take.
I just thought that one should have more firm. Like to go from 2.5 to day 1. I thought that's more. I was like, dang, that sucks. So that's kind of the reason you do it, right? You kind of you want to breed those in, and then it stayed at 1 firm. And I was like, damn, that's it's a cold. Yeah. So it's like dead. Have you retired?
And then Diana, say it again.
Have you retired anything from revealed wise? I totally went off topic there. I was just thinking of that. I didn't know if you had retired that Colt today.
We did Dirty Diana. We did not do Goat of Chemistry. We can maybe do that on stream. I think I'm done racing it. It's probably fine, but I think we'll have enough to chew on. So yeah, another one where Dynam 9 of 9, Mercury's objectively the second, probably best. I say objective and probably and right back to back. But
definitely if you're going for a distance horse, yep.
Like I would have loved this to either be a filly or get an S, even if it's an S
first
colt.
time you did that pairing or second?
First time.
First, because you did Diana with Walter, right? The time that you also
correct.
Yeah.
Correct. So, yeah, we got cucked by Mercury this window, it would seem. All the good ones left the barn, even though we used it 25 times ourselves. So we'll close that one, never to see it again.
True. While you were
full of.
So this is Juju. This is the one that is the mother of S plus, but it's bred 5 times. It's only bred with an S colt once. When it bred with an S colt, it gave me a shit S minus. All the other times I've gotten an S horse out of it from an S minus. So 4 S's, no 1 of 1 blood in any of those 4. So just been an insanely lucky buy. I bought that ticket for like 60 SOL right before live, and it's just been an amazing breeder. So no matches in it. Because don't know what it is. Like, it's just been great.
Yeah, and it's not even good preferences. Like typically when we talk about median outcomes of your breeding expectations, normally we would say if it's a S minus 22, like that's only 5 total boosts subjectively. Again, at the Gen 0 level, not applicable at Gen 1, but only 5 total boosts from being an S. So if you stick 2 of them together, it wouldn't be surprising to get an S outcome. In this case, you're taking one of those 2, one that is 22 or something total boost, but to an S minus
It was a
14,
very
like,
middle of the road S minus, yeah, and it's gone S like 4 out of 5 times. So
are any
yeah.
of them good racers or no?
Well, I've only been able to race the one, 2 of them. Good Juju
No.
had a lot of seconds, I think, if I remember. Yep, yeah, not a winner, but what happened?
I just wonder if,
it's not too good. Well, it's not too bad, I guess. 5 out of 12, but nothing spectacular.
6 out of 12, but we knew you were bad at math to begin with. So.
I thought that was 2-1-2.
Lavender Haze, that's another one that's gonna piss me off, or no? Oh,
No, I did
well,
not
maybe.
Else. Yeah, so that horse was a sprinter, Lavender Haze, which the record definitely was better than like the reveal I thought on that horse. Like it had the S start for Lavender Haze. Everything else was S minus, but it won a lot. Like 10, 14. Yeah, that was a pretty strong horse for S minus. So I went with Indian Wells, who definitely was producing, I think, more sprinters. So that was the play there, and it ran Colt with good preferences. So a lot of options. Hopefully, going to be hitting a stud barn, or based on what wins and what doesn't. So I don't hate Colts at this stage of the game. Like having different options and paths in stable, I'm not mad at. Like I got enough fillies. Definitely don't ever hate getting fillies, but I'm not as upset unless it's just like repeat options. Like you don't want 5 of the same colt, but these are all new colts that I didn't have before. So definitely excited by some of them for sure.
Yeah, if anything, you did go super colt heavy, but most of these you'd still take.
It's been the case for the most part. For my upper tiers have normally strayed more. I get about 50% each time, but it's kind of I have a lot of bottoms tier horses and then some upper tier, and I do tend to get more colts up top, which is kind of stinks. But so this is something I've been doing for a few months, or months, I guess, maybe three or 4 breeding cycles now. Might have been all but the first one. Is taking high preference soft horses to scuba and staying soft, because there was only 2 Gen 0 scuba fillies at RTS. So been doing this for a while with my 3 A+s. Have a scuba colt that's about to race, and then a bunch of fillies that retired as well. They're 2-year-olds, and I've just been doing it. I've done it with 3 different scubas. I did it with Flushing Meadows, I did it with Big A, and then I've now done it with Main Attraction, which I own. So yeah, you can kind of see through there. I might have hit a couple Trotskys in there as well, but
yeah, it's the same question, and I ask it sort of selfishly. Is we've done some RTF and RTS mixing from the opposite direction, and it seems like we hadn't had success as racers. Now, can they be useful breeding pieces? Absolutely, but from a racing standpoint, they weren't very good. And the reveals, we did some of the reveals today. We did them super quick because I didn't know how long I was going to have GBG, and then he ended up staying for like an hour. But even the reveals weren't anything crazy. So I was just curious of, if you make that decision, if you cross, and this looks like a Trotsky, it'd be really hard to have 2 soft if you went firm, I think. I guess it's possible.
Ted claimed that one from me. I don't remember which one it was.
That was drop it RTS. Yep.
That was the first.
So I was gonna say,
that was before. So I started in the second season doing that. So anything that's 3. The Starlight, which I retired today. That's probably Trotsky.
Which actually has a pretty good record. Yeah. So there's nothing wrong with that. But
yeah, that's the Trotsky one. So my other ones, yeah.
Then the only horse you cared about today, even if you wouldn't have had good luck elsewhere, this one kind of caught me off guard, and I didn't know. I wasn't following chat. So
I did not get to do the whole full reveal last time because I didn't have it on grid mode, so I didn't really understand. I didn't really know how it worked, right? But because I only had,
so you peeled it off first. This is the first one you saw.
This is the first one I saw, because when you do it in grid view, it just puts it. It still looks like it doesn't. It should like kind of like mix them up. Like it still puts it in between where it would fall in your stable. So it was the very first top left square, and I was like, no fucking way. Does this mean I got an S+? And it tells you, obviously, you know what horse it is. So I'm like, I mean, and at that point, I was like, I don't give a fuck if it's a Colt or a Philly. Like, just please realize
rip the rest
plus.
off. Yeah.
I mean, either way, it was great, and I had some interest in the womb of that horse, and I have a duplicate that was on the marketplace that people were trying to buy, and I'm actually glad it was Colt. Like, I think I prefer Colt here versus Philly. Definitely wish it had at least one more star. Probably not going to be the best racer, but
I don't think it's going to matter.
When I have a bunch of high preference other stuff to hit with it myself, that'll be great. And then, yeah, no 1-on-1 blood. We're moving to 4 gens for inbreeding. Like, could not be happier with this. The breed report actually showed that it could have gotten like 8 preferences. So the option was definitely there to get crazy preference roll. But the breeding report did not, it had to hit multiple stuff for to get S+. So definitely curious where they were. But
do you have any thought on that in the broader context? So we talked about it a little bit privately on, and this someone could fact check because I don't claim to be good at this kind of math, even though this is still just algebra. But the chances of hitting 6 wicks on your stack grades, so 6 wicks, 25th percentile, was like 0.02%, which if you divide that by how many horses it would take to get one, I think it got you to, in 4,100 horses, basically, you would get one that would hit 6 wicks.
Yeah.
And that doesn't include a horse that hits 5 wicks and 1 within the box, or 4 wicks and 2 within the box. But the first step one of that question is, do you think it's even possible to hit 6 wicks or 5 wicks in a box and 4 wicks in a box? Like, is there a maximum success rate you can have on the individual stack grades? Because if we're saying 1 out of every 4,100 should hit 6 wicks, then we're saying if you put 2 S minuses together 4,100 times, which we've probably done 1,000 times at least, if you do that 4,000 times, you should hit 6 wicks, which should make the horse be like an SS horse, not even an SS minus, like some of the wicks on these. So I'm questioning part one is, do you think you can hit all the wicks, or is there some deterministic behavior that if you've hit a couple wicks, you're going to miss somewhere else?
I think you're going to miss somewhere else. If I'm thinking back to like the Wright Paul's original blog on how these genes work, like, feel like you're gonna hit some non-lined up, and you're gonna have, like, kind of like with SoCals, like we just saw, like the A temper, like, but then a couple SS minus, like, I feel like that might be how it is. But yeah, this is the report. So I don't know. I don't know how they built it. Like, we don't want to know how they built it if we ever find out, like, the game probably be in a worse spot. But like, I wonder if there is some, like, because they can make it true to math, or they can make it true to real life. Like, they say it's towards real life, like, whatever. I'm not a genetics person, but like, I wonder if, like, once you, like, there's like some kind of math that says, like, this horse should hit an S grade overall, so the odds of hitting, like, if they roll one and then check the last roll, or if they truly are, not really sure what goes on there. But yeah, I mean, they definitely, Ian has said that you can hit like 2 B's together and get like an S, like that's in the code. Like, so I'm guessing that truly means you can just hit all 6 and go from there.
So then part 2 of that question is, do you think the number of preferences that a horse gets within its range of outcomes is deterministic based on how many wicks it hits in its stack grades? I.e., if you got a S plus resulting full here, and you said you could have had potentially 8 preferences, did you get less preferences because you got more stack grades?
I've thought about that before, because as far as we know, they're not like true genes, right? Like, they don't, from that article, there was no mention of like those 3 things being like genes. I could be wrong. It's been a long time now since we've seen that. But I feel like when I have seen outliers, they normally, the ones that I've looked at normally are like, you know, 2 high preference horses together. So they still kept high preferences. This one is a pretty good case study, I feel like, because they're so wide, right? Like,
it's tough to tell where the horse is good.
You have 2-star range on every one, so it's like it didn't feel wrong that I got the 4.5 stars or whatever it was, even though 8.5 was possible, because there really was like a 2-star range on every single spot. Like there was no like, oh, you're guaranteed to get a 2 or 2.5 here. Like there really was such a wide range.
And on the stack grades as well too. Like I had GVG on earlier, and I thought he was really candid and probably correct in that kind of wicks differ in size, and the typical profile is like heart and start have the widest wicks a lot of times, but speed tends to have the narrowest, and I think finish does as well, which we didn't talk about finish, but we did talk about speed, where like this breed has just relatively wide box and whiskers across the board. So without racing this horse, you'd have to race it to know like what distance this horse.
Yeah, definitely gonna have to race at a bunch of different spots to figure out where it might take. But this one again, I don't want to not too long on my stuff, but if you look at the mom and the dad of this horse, like the preference ones are really are good, are pretty interesting, right? Because it was possible to get a 3 in right and a 3 in firm, and neither one of the parents did, right? And then because a lot of times you will see it capped, like there's no chance for a 3.
Right.
Now they had a 2.5 at each one, so I get going up a half star, but it's not like that there's not there wasn't like a hard cap there, only on the turf. Turf couldn't get there, but that's because they were both 1.5. But it could still get 1 whole star better than both of the parents. And is that a case of the grandparents? Like, because Better Than Most had 3 in right and 3 in firm. That was kind of what I was trying to think through earlier. Like, our preferences, are you going to pull from the grandparents more than we think? It's not going to be a true average anymore. Because this got brought up maybe a few weeks ago. Poker Player was bringing it up, and he was like, are you always guaranteed? Or is a 3 and a 3 always going to stay guaranteed? It was at Gen 0, but now if you had a good roll up because you're from a 2 and a 3 before, when you have a 3 horse and a 3 horse, but now can go back down to 2 because a grandparent had 2. That's something I want to watch for, but I don't know that we've had enough Gen 1s with Gen 1s to really make a case there. But it will be interesting. Hopefully we might be able to pull that out of gap data pretty easily. Haven't tried yet, but that was kind of one thing I wanted to point out about this horse.
Speaking of Poker Player, since we get to decide people's nicknames or how we pronounce things if they never join us on stream, do we say it's Dreeny Park or is it Driney Park, the name of his stable?
I think in my head I've never said it out loud. I think I've always read it as Dreeny.
Okay. If anybody knows, maybe it's actually the name of something. If anybody knows in chat, they can
clear it
out.
The horse track, and he just like straight up stole it.
I guess we can look to see if there's a web reference for it, but that brings up a PFL link. Something in Scotland,
which is where he lives.
Correct. Don't dox him. Come on, Ray. Something Scottish. I'm gonna go with Dreeny. I think if it's Driney, then you're fucked, Poker Player, because you never join us on stream. So right. It is what it is.
We decided for you. Exactly.
Oh, Ghost drops I love Ted bomb. What did he buy now? Did I miss something? Let's look quick before we get into the arithmetic a little bit.
We got breaking news.
Fuck you, Ghost. He says he's just gonna keep saying it. I thought that was a tease of a big deal that happened. So apologies for the interruption there. I'll give you an option. I promise to be done at 7 because I still have to set a DFS lineup for the Vikings 49ers game. I don't even know if McCaffrey's playing. That's going to be a pretty big factor for obvious reasons. Do you want to stick around for the breeding reports of Gen 1 versus Gen 0 Colts, or do you want to drop? Totally up to you. I don't care either way.
I probably do. I probably do need to drop. Wife's home now at this point,
fine.
so probably need to go eat dinner with her. But thanks for having me on, shooting the shit. Thanks for the Mercury breeds. Was a good day. Got a lot to think about. I need to, hopefully sell some stuff. So hit me up on Discord, anyone. If there's stuff in my stable I haven't listed or whatever, like happy to go through it with anybody. But yeah, I mean, Crown just hit 37 cents. The game, we just got Ian got funding. Like, it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be fun. We got a handful of months still before the growth phase is done. I think we've definitely grown. Like, it's served its purpose, and we got a handful of months more to figure out what's next. But it doesn't. We're not slowing down, which is crazy. Like, just kind of. I made a joke today, and I was like, I'm gonna have to start doing some drugs or something once these PFL dopamine hits wear off, because like it's just a crazy day. It's just a crazy day.
Yeah. It's hard to keep up for sure. So I appreciate you hopping up as always. So yeah, and if anybody's looking for horses at RTF or RTS, the JJ's got them, and like me, has enough of them where he can probably sell them, not putting words in his mouth, but at fair prices, because volume is a bigger consideration than price.
For sure. So. Yep. Awesome. Thanks, man. I'll stick around for the replay for the rest, because I want this is something I haven't done myself, so I need to watch and learn on this.
Fair enough. All right. Thank you, sir.
All right. Later, man.
Doughboy says, don't do drugs that are harder than you. Yeah, something tells me the JJ isn't a very hard dude. Like, if he ever got convicted of white-collar crimes for his accounting work, or even just his tax returns for PFL, like, that guy's not going to make it very long. Not that I would. Like, this is not passing judgment, but it seems like it would be an uphill climb. And then, yeah, I brought this on screen, but I wanted to let him finish. Shout out to F-Dog, D Stables, nice win in the Derby. Yeah, someone told me there was a fix. I don't know if you caught the stream. I know you were on with Doughboy as well. But someone said you could just let it sort by age, and then you wouldn't know the grade. But I think there is something nice about going through your foals with like the lowest expectations and working to the top expectations. So I still want the filters to work to only filter to see Gen Zeros, and then you can have it sort by grade, and then I'll just work my way to the top. Like, that would be perfect. I don't think it would be that difficult. For anybody that, and again, this is more skewed towards on-demand content for the second stream. All of the streams are, but especially this piece, and I'll have to try to make a bookmark of when we start this commentary. But I've done this before, same methodology. We did it with Shockwave, we did it with Primetime, then we did it with a few other of the Gen 1 Colts that hit the barn last window. I'm not going to look at Shockwave's offspring here. I trust that Doughboy did a little of that on his stream today. Check that out. Check the replay there. What I promised to do, based on revealing 3 Colts that we had some varying levels of interest of using ourselves. Cosmic Wood, Dirty Diana, Ultraviolet. Cosmic Wood is SLDF Colt from Cosmos, which is rarity 40 Ziggy with Morningwood. Dirty Diana is our 9 of 9 preference S-. RTF filly with Jupiter, which is the rarest Astro RTF. Ultraviolet is our A+ 25 total boost, 9 of 9 total preferences with Shawnee Bear, which is the highest total boost, highest total preference S- Colt. So what we did is we pulled together an analysis within these 2 archetypes. This time we could actually do it. When we did Morningwood, and I forget, or not Morningwood, when we did Shockwave and Primetime, we just had to use our own fillies. We don't own a single RDF filly. So we used RTF fillies. So we kind of ignored the preferences, which I think is a safe assumption anyways. This time we can actually use our own fillies. And we don't need to look at all of these, but I think it does a pretty good job of comparing and contrasting the Gen 1 Colt as a breeding option to its sire, the Gen 0 Colt. So again, Cosmic Wood would have came from Morning Wood. So if I wanted to breed with Cosmic Wood, what I did is I ran 6 breeding reports with 6 fillies we own. And we strategically did a Gen 0 filly with a Gen 1 filly of the same dam. So Willow's first offspring was Black Willow. Again, a Gen 0 filly with a Gen 1 filly. Kennedy's first offspring was Jackie Kennedy. Same thing for Juno and Juno McGuff. So now we're crossing generations both on the colt side and on the mare side. And what we've tried to do is get a wide enough range of global grades for horses and not choose any one of ones. So none of these, well, none of the Gen Zeros are from one of ones. I don't think any of these are from one of ones. I think they would have been Shawnee Bear. So in this case, we can honor that. At RTF, that gets more complicated. We did actually use Jupiter for some of those. But if no one's seen this format before, all of these tabs are going to look the same. If anybody wants this workbook, I would be happy to provide the workbook, which actually includes hyperlinks to the breeding reports yourself. Don't trust any link you don't get directly from me. Maybe don't even trust any link you get from me, but I'm at least going to make the offer if anybody wants it. So without further ado, red is always going to mean the Gen 0 option on the Colt side. Blue is always going to mean the Gen 1. So Morning Wood being the Gen 0, Cosmic Wood being the Gen 1. Where they overlap is purple. Again, box and whiskers, 50% of your outcomes are within the box, 25% to the good, 25% to the bad. So what I tried to do is give you a decent enough sample to try to make some conclusions of between Morning Wood and Cosmic Wood, which are both S's, is one better at an individual stack grade than the other? And the answer is going to be yes. There's going to be a few of these that are obvious. I'll try to pull those two horses up quickly here, where the stack grades legitimately differ. So it's not that hard to see. If I go to Cosmic Wood, finally got some races in today by the looks of it. That or sold some horses, but I doubt it. I don't have that much out there right now. So if I go to the Bloodline tab on Cosmic Wood, so same start, same speed, same stamina. Objectively, Morning Wood has better finish. Same heart. Objectively, Morning Wood has better temper. So when I run breeding reports, can I definitively say that even though they have the same stat subgrades, start, speed, stamina, heart, can I tell if Cosmic Wood has better start, speed, stamina, or heart? Or can I tell if Morning Wood has better start, speed, stamina, or heart? Stamina or heart. We know Morning Wood has better finish. We know Morning Wood has better temper. We know Morning Wood uses 0 one of ones, where Cosmic Wood does use 1 one of one. There are many factors at play in your decision to breed, but this is simply comparing and contrasting what I think to be the actual radials within the stat grades. So using Willow, every time we go down, we'll go down kind of a subgrade, and then every time we go to the right, we'll go over a generation. So this left example is always going to be Gen 0. The right is always going to be Gen 1. The Gen 1 probably isn't all that important to the analysis. It just helps try to understand, do you get more variance breeding a Gen 1 colt with a Gen 1 filly? Do you get more variance if you breed a Gen 0 colt with a Gen 1 filly? So that's why it's included. I'm basically trying to give you the best sample I can. All these breeding reports were ran today. All right. So on Willow, which is an A filly, Gen 0, the box is out to the right, higher for Morningwood, and the whisker out to the right is better for Morningwood. Now, the whisker to the downside for Morningwood is actually worse, but generally speaking, I would say if I had to pick between one of these two for just start, I would pick Morningwood. When you go to speed, I think you can actually, this case, clearly see that Cosmic Wood has better speed than Morningwood. So let's go back to what we looked at. We said Cosmic Wood has S plus speed, Morningwood has S plus speed. Based on the graphic, there is no difference in those two horses' speed. Once you go into the breeding report, we can see that Cosmic Wood has a higher ceiling. Its 50% outcomes are better. 50% of the outcomes for Morningwood could potentially be worse. And the worst outcome for Morningwood is objectively worse than the worst outcome for Cosmic Wood. So that's what I'm saying. They could both say S, or sorry, S plus in this case. But I think that for one horse, a one-horse sample size, even though the stack grades are the same, Cosmic Wood has better speed. Sort of the opposite on stamina. Now, it doesn't look like either horse has a better 50 percentile outcome for stamina. Their best 50% outcome is the same. Actually, their top whisker is basically the same. But more of Cosmic Wood's stamina is to the downside. So in that 50 percentile outcome, some portion of that 50%, call it 10%, that looks about like 1/5 of the box by my eye test. So call it 10% of that 50% is worse, and its worst outcome is worse. So I would say I would prefer the stamina of Morningwood. I don't know that it's better. I would prefer the stamina, but I don't know that it's better. And that's why we do more than one horse to try to figure out if we know. When you get into finish, this is an easy one to review. Of the 50 percentile outcomes, Morningwood definitely creeps out on the top end. Its best outcome is better. Its worst outcome is better. Morningwood has better finish. We knew that. That is a subgrade better. So this, in theory, could be kind of what one subgrade looks like. When you get into heart, this one's interesting. So the 50 percentile outcome for Morningwood is entirely covered within the 15% or 50 percentile outcome of Cosmic Wood, meaning Cosmic Wood is way more variable. Let's say maybe a third of that box is to the good that in the 50 percentile outcome Morningwood couldn't reach. And its best outcome, the whisker, is like way past the whisker on Morningwood. But its downside whisker is actually worse than heart. Worse than Morningwood. So it's similar to stamina. You could prefer one. I would certainly prefer Cosmic Wood's heart here, but I don't know that I have enough evidence to say that it's definitively better. We'll check another horse to see if it stands out or if we see the same pattern establish itself. When you go to temper, the whiskers are the same. Morningwood's top 50 percentile outcome is better. Cosmic Wood's 50% or bottom 50 percentile outcome is worse. To me, that means I actually think that was a subgrade better, wasn't it? Yeah. So Morningwood at S, Cosmic Wood at S minus. So these are subgrade different as it relates to the horse. And this wasn't the subgrade different. So we concluded that Cosmic Wood had better speed, even though the stack grade was both S. And here we're saying definitively Morningwood has better temper, but the stack grades are different. But this to me seems more like if this is one subgrade, this should be at least one subgrade, and it's not. So these are the things I'm looking for when I'm reviewing breeding reports on horses. We'll try to get through the other two as it relates to Morningwood and Cosmic Wood fairly quickly. I don't think we're going to get into Gen 1. All it does is kind of extrapolate this. I'm going to zoom out a little bit. I know it's going to be harder for you to see it, but now I want to compare these on top of each other. So we gave Morningwood the edge on start when it related to Willow, the A grade Gen 0 filly. Now we're on Kennedy, the A plus Gen 0 filly. That's the same pattern, right? Better top outcome, better box, more downside, but still I would rather have the start of Morningwood. So now we've taken 2 different Gen 0 fillies. None of this is inbreeding, and said definitively I would prefer Morningwood start. Speed, where on Willow, the box was more aggressively better for Morningwood. We concluded like it was objectively better bottom, better top, better box. Here it's much closer, and this speaks to they both have S speed. So this is just a one filly example where speed pops better for Cosmic Wood, but here would suggest it's a much closer picture. Stamina is about the exact same box and whiskers, honestly. The box to the bottom is worse for Cosmic Wood, but the top of the 50 percentile outcomes are the same. The whiskers are about the same dimension. Finish is about the same. Heart is more convincingly in Cosmic Wood's fashion. The whisker, the best whisker outcome for Morningwood with Kennedy. Again, this is with one Gen 0 A+ filly and Morningwood. The whisker outcome is an S, where with Cosmic Wood, it can stretch a lot further than that. So I think I would give Heart an edge to Cosmic Wood, and I would have when I was looking at Willow as well. Temper, pretty close to the same box and whisker as we saw with Willow. So I think through 2 horses, we can say Morningwood's got the better start. There's been some variation in speed. The stamina box looks about the same, which would slightly favor Cosmic Wood in that, or sorry, Morningwood in that case. Finish would favor Morningwood. Heart would favor Cosmic Wood, and Temper slightly favors Morningwood. These are all pretty negligible. Other factors that you're going to consider are, again, our price, and that Cosmic Wood would use 1 of 1, where Morningwood would use 0. Getting into Willow here, an S-, Gen 0, again, non-1 of 1. Start favors Morningwood again. Speed favors Cosmic Wood again. So even though they are both S speed, I'm willing to say, after looking through 2 of the 3 horses and it being fairly convincing, that I would rather have Cosmic Wood. Now, maybe it's not higher and it's just a variance thing. The box is wider, the top whisker's better, the bottom whisker's worse. I still, if I'm trying to pick one, I would pick Blue there. The stamina box is the exact same as it's been for all of them. Finish is fairly pronounced in Morningwood's favor. Heart is fairly convincing in Cosmic Wood's favor. The temper looks the same, slight advantage to Morningwood. So now that adds some context to the subgrades that you're seeing. Now, I probably still pick, if cost is no issue, I would pick Morningwood because it doesn't use a 1-on-1. If you're trying to have a horse that has speed or trying to have a horse that has heart, then Cosmic Wood becomes interesting. If you're trying to have a horse that has start or finish, then Morningwood becomes a better option, and to a lesser extent, Temper. But these 2 are pretty even Steven, in my opinion, that would potentially contain some bias. We'll get into one that it wouldn't matter what my bias was. There's a better horse of the 2, but we'll save that for the last one here. We'll try to work through this one progressively faster than the last 2. Again, if you want the spreadsheet or have any questions on it, I'd be happy to give you the spreadsheet or answer those questions. Getting into Dirty Diana, I just want to make sure I'm using the same spreadsheet, magnification. So we change up the slate of fillies because we went to RTF as opposed to LDF, but we use an A- Gen 0. We use the resulting offspring Gen 1. We use an A+ Gen 0. We use the resulting offspring Gen 1. We use another A+ and the resulting offspring's S-. So Jupiter is ours, it's S, it's Astro, it's the rarest Astro, RTF, S Colt. Dirty Diana was from our 9 of 9, S-, 9 of 9 preference, S-, and it made an S with better preferences than Jupiter, but probably worse stack rates, which we'll clearly see. So getting into it, same logic. Jupiter's always going to be red, Dirty Diana's always going to be blue. The first one with the A- Gen 0 looks like a slight edge to Jupiter. Better box, better top whisker, better bottom end of the box. Speed looks like no difference. I guess range of outcomes on Dirty Diana is slightly better. I don't know if that's going to even factor into my decision if I'm trying to choose a box and whiskers that I prefer. Stamina is kind of a slobber knocker here. Pretty clearly, Jupiter has better stamina. That's not surprising at all. If we do the same thing we were doing with Cosmic Wood and we go to Dirty Diana instead, we can see that it's S's across the board except an S- in temper. So super balanced, maybe probably a contributing factor into it not being a dominant racer because it just doesn't have a distance preference where other horses can tend to. You go to the bloodline, Jupiter had better start objectively. They had the same speed. Jupiter has 2 subgrades better on stamina. That's what we just saw. On paper, they have the same finish. On paper, they have the same heart. On paper, they have the same temper. So getting back into it, we saw stamina was pretty convincing. Finish looks fairly convincing as well. Again, the top end of the box isn't crazy far to the right, but the bottom end of the Dirty Diana one is quite a bit lower. Heart, I would give the slightest edges to Dirty Diana. It looks like there's a sliver of red hanging out here. But otherwise, they basically overlap, very similar to how Speed did as well. And then Temper is an interesting one because the entire box for Jupiter fits within the box for Diana. It looks like of those 50% outcomes, there are more to the right of Jupiter with Dirty Diana than there are to the left. And then the whiskers are wider, both to the good or to the bad. So that this, to me, it means Dirty Diana has more variant temper in this one breed. Again, we'll go through 2 more here. So getting into Hazel, which is an A+. This one's funny. I'm not going to exclude it. And part of what's funny about it is even being experienced through all the betas, building and curating a stable, I didn't realize that Diana and Hazel shared the same sire. So this one you can more or less ignore, other than we haven't looked at inbreeding in a long time. Like I said, these breeding reports were run today. So this is the impact of inbreeding. Like it's at least a subgrade everywhere. And there's, yeah, I guess there's some upside, but there's no upside better than the Gen 0. So I think they sufficiently nuked inbreeding. Not financial advice, but now I think it would be a terrible decision to inbreed. Where before I thought it was a clever solution. Going down to Jane, another A+. This one looks a little bit different than, I'm just gonna, so it's easier, I don't have to scroll past the other one. I'm just gonna copy paste the river one just below this one. Bear with me. I just want to see these two super close together because they look a little different. It's a much bigger advantage for Jupiter with the Jane breed on start. Speed's the same. They basically overlap. They probably have almost the exact same speed. What's interesting is the box is really narrow as it relates to Jane, but they still completely overlap. They still completely overlap for this river one, but the box is a little bit wider. Stamina is actually not as big of an edge. It's still a huge edge. What's interesting is the best outcome for stamina, the true 1 of 1,000 outcome, actually results in Dirty Diana having a better stamina. Now, you should never breed anything trying to get 1 of 1,000, but food for thought there. Finish seems to favor Jupiter here as well. Heart overlaps again. And temper seems to skew that Dirty Diana has better temper. Again, across these 3 horses, one of the 3 is kind of a throwaway. But I would say that Dirty Diana has a small edge in temper. Jupiter has a small edge in start and finish. Speed and heart are the exact same. And Jupiter has a huge edge in stamina. So then the other things we talked about before is the decision point comes from how many 1 of 1s are used. Now, if you use Dirty Diana versus Jupiter, they both can contain the same 1 of 1. Jupiter would have, what is that, 7 preferences, and Dirty Diana would have 8 preferences. So is one preference better, including a full star on firm, good enough to offset a 2 subgrade difference in stamina and kind of a 1 subgrade difference in start? I don't even know the answer to that question. What I know is I own them both, so if I want to use them, I can use them. But I don't know what we're going to do at RTF. I'd initially leaned, I was going to use Dirty Diana. My gut says I still will, because I think people are valuing preferences higher than I would. But ultimately, the market decides what my horses are worth. And if they're valuing it, then I should probably breed towards something that is valuable. So my gut says I use Dirty Diana. I didn't mention it with Cosmic Wood, but I will with Dirty Diana, and it applies to Cosmic Wood and Ultraviolet. All 3 of these are listed in the stud barn. I was going to have prices subject to change based on this analysis. After this analysis, my gut says I maybe move Cosmic Wood up a little bit. I might move Dirty Diana down just a touch, but not much. And then I'll have to move Ultraviolet down to prove that I do as best I can fair analysis. We will show you that Shawnee Bear, despite not having 9 of 9 preferences, is objectively better than Ultraviolet. Now that still can say that you could prefer Ultraviolet from a distance preference and a total preference standpoint, but on these breeding reports, it'll be pretty clear where Shawnee Bear, again, an S-, 8.5 preferences out of Pocono Racing's barn, with an A+ that made an S-. So not surprising that a top tier S- is better than the sum of a top tier S- and a top A+. It's probably pretty close to what you would expect. Where the grades fell maybe would be slightly different, but let's get into that tab here quickly. 6:30 my time. Got probably 10 minutes to wrap this up, a little bit for questions if we got them, and then I got to put together a lineup for tonight. So now we're back to the same slate of LDF fillies, same ones we used for Cosmic Wood. Again, left charts are Gen 0, right charts are Gen 1. We haven't really looked at the Gen 1s. If you want to, again, I can provide all this information. Shawnee Bear is always going to be red. Ultraviolet's always going to be blue. Objectively, Shawnee Bear is better in start and speed and temper. If you go back to that, and again, that's 1 horse sample size, so you'd want to check it. But yeah, start is 2 subgrades different, not shocking. Speed is 2 subgrades different, not shocking. Temper is 1 subgrade different, not shocking. What's interesting is I didn't say stamina, and stamina it is 1 subgrade better. So let's go back to that. Barely eclipses it on stamina. So actually stamina looks super close to me. That does not look like 1 subgrade difference to me. Finish, Ultraviolet is better in this 1 horse example. And finish is an S for Ultraviolet, finish is an S for Shawnee Bear. So this is another example of the readout. The graphic grade does not always equal quality. There is radials in between. I think it's very clear that, and I've already had the advantage of looking ahead. So again, you've seen 1 horse sample size. I've seen 3 or more. Even though these are both S's, I do believe Ultraviolet's S finish to be superior. Heart is damn close, and temper, Shawnee Bear is better. Going to the A+, Kennedy, start, speed are rough for sure. Here you've got a little bit of an edge on stamina for Shawnee Bear. The best outcome isn't as good, but the worst outcome is quite a bit better than the worst outcome would be for Ultraviolet. Here again, finish wasn't even as convincing here, is very convincing here in my opinion. Better best outcome, meaningfully enough better box. The red slips out of the bottom side of the box here, and the same exact worst outcome. Heart again is like almost a mere replica. Best outcome is with Ultraviolet, but so is the worst outcome. Bottom end of the box is bigger and more pronounced here for Ultraviolet. So Heart would be more consistent with Shawnee Bear is what that would tell me. And then Temper's fairly clear for Shawnee Bear. You get to Juno and everything stands out a little bit more, it seems. The boxes almost don't overlap at all for start, with it in favor of Shawnee Bear. Somewhat similar for speed. Stamina remains close. Finish does favor Ultraviolet. So now we've seen 3 examples of 3 individual fillies where, even though the stat grade says S for both Colts, I think in all 3 it shows that Ultraviolet has better finish. And obviously my conclusion is it's not necessarily a better Colt for sure. Heart remains close. Temper continues to favor Shawnee Bear. So same thing we talked about before. What other factors are at play? Price, and how many 1-of-1s are used. Or in this case, I do think you have to make a special exception to say how many Shawnee Bears are used now. Obviously, Shawnee Bear was used a lot. And if you use Shawnee Bear, you're using Shawnee Bear. And if you use Ultraviolet, you're using Shawnee Bear. So that doesn't really help you there. I think the only context you would objectively prefer Ultraviolet is if you're trying for the longer distance. And I mean like 11 or 12 furlongs probably. Finish did seem better. Stamina was close. Heart was close. You're losing start and speed every time. So you're going to lose those sprint distances to Shawnee Bear every single time. So that was the analysis of the 3 Colts we retired today. Again, takeaways: Shawnee Bear seems to be better. We'll probably have to lower Ultraviolet down. We'll probably go to the minimum 4K on that. That's not even to say I won't use it. I like the distance profile of a longer distance. I like the 9-of-9 preferences. I like that it can still use all 3 1-of-1s after the fact. Dirty Diana, we're going to have to decide what we're going to do. I'm not sure. Preferences are better for Dirty Diana, but subgrades, Stamina in particular, seem to be better for Jupiter. So I think, like I said, we'll maybe lower the price on Dirty Diana a touch. It's already lower than Jupiter, and we'll lower it a little bit, but maybe not a lot, maybe $50. And then Cosmic Wood and Morning Wood were closest of this analysis of any of these horses, which is actually really encouraging because, again, this is one we bought as opposed to one we bred. And I want longer distances anyways. So now obviously I would probably want Finish, which is going to favor Morning Wood. But as you saw with GBG, he's a pretty big believer in speed and speed playing at all distances and start not mattering as much for a longer distance. So I think we're going to fire this one up and use it quite a bit. And yeah, if anything, I maybe raise the price a little bit. Or what I could do is I could use it for internal purposes and then raise the price when we're done with it. So that's what I've got for the analysis. I appreciate no one at least falling asleep on their keyboard and then hitting enter to see a bunch of like random letters. Are there any questions on the analysis that you want to talk through tonight? Otherwise, again, privately reach out. No issues there. Are there any questions on anything else we've seen on Foals Day? I've streamed with you for 18 minutes short of 5 hours, so I think and hope you know my thoughts on most everything. Again, the videos are always available on our YouTube page, Poker Player. I'm gonna go with Drini Park, or if you keep flipping off, maybe we'll call it Drini Park, whatever one annoys you the most. But obviously appreciate you listening all the time, and you are one of the sharpest guys when it comes to analyzing breeding outcomes as well, and would chop this up maybe even better than I would. So appreciate your help on some of this stuff always. Drini Park is proper? Drini. Dry me. Oh my God. Not yet. We're gonna go with Drini Park. That's what Vijay wanted to. So until you join the stream in the flesh, we get to say what we want. It cannot be corrected. I don't know if the chat comments carry forward to the YouTube video or not. I'll find out eventually. So yeah, lighter crowd tonight. Not surprised by that. We had huge numbers this morning. I know Doughboy did very well this morning as well. If you've been listening to streams for 5 hours, that's not a great reflection of yourself and a much worse reflection on me for actually being the one streaming it for 5 hours. But appreciate you guys all hanging out. Hopefully the Vikings don't lose too bad tonight, but ultimately I'm over them this season. And the Wolves fire up on Wednesday and they sign Jaden McDaniels to a monster contract. But I think Jaden McDaniels is very good. I think Ant Edwards and Jaden McDaniels in 3 years are going to make us forget about this painful Rudy Gobert experience. So with that, you've got my NFL and NBA analysis all for the price of free with my PFL analysis. But I'll leave you guys be. Have a good one.